fancy intro music. Yeah! Woo!
Good evening and welcome back, Star Trek Fleet Command fans. Happy Halloween if you're watching. Then actually rocking my Klingon hockey jersey signed by Michael Dorn. Shout out to Corey who got it for me. I'm a Klingon hockey player for Halloween. It might be weird, but that's what you've come to expect on this channel. And speaking of Klingons, today we'll be talking about this beautiful lady right here, the Negh'Var. Is she worth going after? Now, I made a similar video to this just a week or two ago about the Akira. In fact, her running mate here, as being a 63 uncommon, is, yep, she's chilling. She's made it up to tier 5, by the way, and still not extremely far. But in this video, we're going to cover the value of each one, whether they're worth going after, but specifically focusing on, of course, the Klingon favorite, which is the Negh'Var. Now, I remember the Negh'Var when it first hit the screen, and many of you might have this memory, many of you might not. But I remember as a kid being just enchanted by this brand new Klingon battleship, because so many of the Klingon ships that have come out in terms of like in Star Trek, Bird of Prey, it's like this nimble, cloaky, hit you then leave you thing. You had the D7s and the Katingas, which were kind of imposing, but like their necks were made of pencils. And this one clearly has tried to take that and just like, what if we beefed it up a lot, right? You got the nacelles through the wings, you got the massive disruptors. And I just remember as a kid being like really into this design. And I did grow up watching a lot of Deep Space Nine. So let's talk about it. What are the pros? What are the cons? Well, one of the cons is going to be the exact same issue that you ran into with the Akira and with all G6 ships, and that's firing pattern. Now, this is, and again, we can have that on the screen, the firing pattern for the Negh'Var. This is going to be a common ailment for any G6 ship. So even when we talk about the epics in G6, the Crenshaw, the Enterprise E, the Scimitar, all of those also have weaker firing patterns, but they start to make up for it with better hull strength. That is probably the saving grace of the Negh'Var. If we're talking about the Negh'Var versus the Akira versus the Minerva, is the Negh'Var is the battleship of the group, meaning it does have a slightly better standard set of things like survivability ratings, which in this game is going to be your hull health. And you can compare that. We're going to scroll on down to our Akira. You see it's at 5 tiers, but only 1 bill higher, with its DPR being higher, but by not a lot. So getting firing patterns of the weakness, but the Negh'Var does have that slight edge just being a battleship, meaning its base stats are going to be a little bit stronger than what you're used to. In terms of ship ability with the asteroid field resistance, well, that's obviously for dealing with hazards. So, you know, how important that is to you as a player is kind of debatable. Of course, it has cloaking that you can pick up, as well as shield repairs, which has become quite common in the game. Still something worth pointing out, though, is I use the cloaking on my Rotaran basically daily. In fact, we scroll all over to the Rotaran, you'll see that I've got it unlocked, and I use it quite regularly, working on the field repairs next. But when you look at its special ability, as long as the opponent has hull breach, every time the Rotaran deals a critical hit, it increases its critical damage. And that's a cumulative effect that actually has a purpose in terms of combat. And as always, we've talked about, that's one of the failings, one of the drawbacks to the G6 uncommons, is they have weaker firing patterns and they're just not that combative. But that doesn't mean they're useless nor weak. So let's take a look at this in terms of logs. Isn't it nice to see our Klingon brothers taking on a Federation station? You'll see the Negh'Var here and the Rotaran up there just for insurance purposes, but basically, like I've said before, you're going to be able to complete your PvE content quite well with the uncommons. It's really more of a discussion of how far do you take them, right? Because they have an immediate warp advantage. For example, the Negh'Var, as you can see behind me, is sitting at warp 1269, versus the Rotaran that's only at 1184, which you can technically get higher when I get my Fleet Commander Fleet Commander Kirk warp ability maxed out. But what you're seeing is pretty much what you're going to get. It is a effective battleship that has a weaker firing pattern, but can soak up quite a bit of damage in the PvE side of the world, which could be good for you when you're looking at longevity. How do I take on waves? Do I need a third ship? Things like that. But I do want to point out that they're not the powerhouses that you would want them to be to handle everything on their own. They will handle like-leveled content. And just like we've warned with the Akira, maybe you don't want to take it too far. But for the sake of enjoyment, it is great to be able to pick one of these up and just have fun going about doing all the things. In fact, let me throw it up here to a 62 by itself. Well, let's actually just take the Rotaran out of the equation because we know the Rotaran is extremely valuable. Shout out to Nemesis, by the way, who got us that pretty skin for it. But let's just take the Negh'Var up by itself and let it run this. And again, it has no below deck crew. It's a tier 1. It's just got random Cisco crew on there as the Armada crew. And let's just let it have the 62 by itself. Keep in mind, these are solos meant to be used with 3 ships. I'm about to do it with 1 and have no problem with the Negh'Var straight out the box handling that content. Again, this is the content it's designed to handle from the jump. Come out the dock and handle this new stuff that's out. You can even take it all the way to the rares should you want, or even push further. So again, you're getting that like-leveled content that you're looking for, and that could be important for a lot of players, even players who are working on things like their relativity, getting it tiered up, taking it to a higher level. Same thing with the GS-31. All of these special ships can have a lot of value in G6. It really depends on how far you want to take them, or specifically how far you've taken them before you've unlocked the 63 uncommons. And with faction credits and Latin becoming more and more abundant in today's game, in fact, if you do your independent archives, having the Fisha maxed out gives you 80,000 Latinum every single day. And again, that might not be a ton in Sigma space, but when we're talking about acquiring regular faction credits, because it's not until G7 that you have to spend a special amount of currency to get the G7 Sigma faction credits, being able to afford these ships is getting easier and easier by the day, with more and more payouts for things like Sigma Tritanium, which currently I'm sitting on 1 million after having taken the Akira to tier 5. So the early G6 economy is becoming more and more player friendly, allowing for players to go after and invest in things that maybe before they weren't able to. Here, I'm gonna jump in on this. We'll throw our Rotaran down here and we'll go after a rare together. So the point I'm making is, can you find fun? Can you find excitement by taking on the Klingon pledge and joining with an Negh'Var? Well, the short answer is yes. Crewing stays relatively the same. Again, an Armada crew, like what I have now, will stay an Armada crew. This is just a generic full synergy DS9 Armada crew. If you're trying to do a PvE crew, you're going to pretty much stay the same, right? You're going to be looking at Janeway, EMH Doc, Anorax. You're going to be looking at Janeway, Seska, Suitor as a higher level. In fact, that actually got shouted out in the VIP magazine where they talked about, for higher level players, this is something that's quite common. So just to give you the straight of the Negh'Var, yes, it is nice to pick up. It's fun. Has a little bit of a natural hull bonus, just being the battleship that it is, though slightly slower. I don't think that's as big of a concern in today's game as it was for battleships when this first came out. Certainly fun to acquire. Just be careful on how far you take it, because the cost are absolutely still there. It's just that just doesn't go away, because in Star Trek Fleet Command, costs stay high. Now, thankfully though, as time progresses, there was a time where we said just completely ignore these. Now they're absolutely worth picking up, having fun with, and that should be the name of the game, having fun. And as far as crewing, like I said, stick with your regular Armada crews, Entity crews. But if you have specific questions, feel free to drop them down in the comment section down below. Really, as a reminder, below decks is king when it comes to crewing these days. And then there you go, a rare, easily handled, no shenanigans, no problems. And that's what you're getting for something like the Negh'Var. Live long and plunder. Stay safe with the Space Cowboys. Deuces, that's me. Catch you on the next Star Trek Fleet Command video. I appreciate you. If you need any more information, I'm always available. See you then.
I would like to request to Scopely to add more Klingons to the game. That is what I was told to do, and so I am doing it. Which, you know, is not maybe the best thing as a leader to just do what you're told, but it seems like a good request to make, to add more Klingons. Everything is better with Klingons, am I right? I am right, because I'm a Klingon. Klingon mach tach judge! We are Klingons, let it remain. All right, Rel's on a roll today. She's very excited.